We really thought that people would accept the law as it was, you know. Nobody came forward in all this time to really say that they were not for the law.
And I think what happened at Tuesday night, because we were really supposed to get into the final content of the law, is that community members came out and they wanted to, I guess, kibosh the process and say, nope, we want it to go back to a type 1 so that we could have say in how it's going to roll out.
You have people who come in there who have ulterior motives, and the first thing they say to you is that, you know, you're not legal, you're illegitimate, and you have no right, you have no say over me because I'm traditional.
We understand that at Tuesday's meeting, that group of people had their one perspective. At the beginning of the meeting, one woman stood up and said, I rallied these people, they're here to support me. So already you had a special interest group.
Then how did it go from there to a referendum?
Now, there was a lot of confusion around that referendum. So what we had talked about was a referendum around the sale of cannabis.
In terms of the question of the referendum, I know the community members that were there were asking for maybe 3 different items to be addressed in a decision. Number 1 is the public policy. If we're going to allow retail in this territory, then if it's a yes, then it needs to be regulated. There's no way we're going to allow a free-for-all Wild West in our territory. I think we expect more for our community and from our community, that we don't want to see that happen. The second was with regard to the way the law is being developed. Type 1, Type 2. I don't think we could ask that question whether this is the right way, or that we have a process. We have to follow that process. It's been developed over 10 years now. And if the community isn't happy with it, we could look at modifying it after this, or, you know, moving forward. But we're bound by that process. And to me, it's the right way to go, because it protects the larger majority. Sure, there was 100 people at that meeting, but what about the voices of the 7,400 people who weren't at that meeting?
The survey alone outnumbered the people in that meeting.
If I may, Tuesday night's meeting is not indicative of what the community wants. I mean, when somebody says, you know, the meeting on Tuesday night, well, the community said this, so you have to do it. Well, that wasn't the community.
Nobody came forward in all this time to really say that they were not for the law.
So my question to you, what were some of the issues that were brought up by the community?
It was nothing with regard to content. It was all about process. They want to be able to have their way, not their say.
Nobody should be surprised of the categorization, and that we can't backtrack on.
I guess just as an observation, and I guess what I'm seeing, and I think Gus always basically has outlined part of the issue with this, is because when you're looking at it, it's how the steps came to be, because the optics of it look like council is going to make the community law, we're going to follow cdmp, then we're going to go into this next step, and the final step being we're going to have this possible agreement with this company from South Africa. So the optics of it, without reading anything, to me point that council's going to be exactly how you described it. So I think that taking that step back is something that needs to happen.
Right.
You know, and you know, and I know, and everybody who's listening knows that when it comes to the community, we can go years and argue a topic, but when it's push comes to shove, the 11th hour, then we're going to stand up. So it seems to me there's a piece missing. I'm not sure of that piece.
So we brought it back to council, and we had a debriefing on the whole meeting, and council said, listen, we have a process and we can't veer from that. We're going to stick to that. So that's what we're going to do.